In this presentation, we are going to learn the term called static friction. The term static friction is represented by the letter Fs. Here, let us imagine an object. It is kept at rest. The mass of the object is 2 kg. Here, to move the object, what we have to do? We have to apply a force. The force what is applied on the object is called external force. As soon as the external force is applied, the in between the floor and also the object there will be a frictional force. The frictional force will be existing between that object and the floor, that is along the surface. One opposing force is acting. That opposing force is called frictional force. Static friction means in the beginning of the movement, that is when you apply external force, in the beginning of the movement of the object, some frictional force will be acting. That frictional force, it does not allow the object to move. Are you clear? The object, it won't move, but there will be a frictional force. In the beginning of the movement, when the object is at rest, some amount of frictional force is acting. That frictional force that does not allow the body to move further. Such kind of force is called static friction. To move the object, to slide the object on the floor, now we have to learn how much amount of force has to be applied. Now we are going to learn 3 cases. To learn more about frictional force, we have to learn about the maximum static friction. The term called F max. Fs max must be learnt. How to calculate Fs max? That is the question. Here, while applying a external force, here there will be a maximum static friction will be created. That maximum static frictional force must be calculated by using a formula. How to calculate the formula? So here, two forces are acting on the body. One is called gravitational force mg and normal reactional force is called n. Are you clear? N is a normal reactional force, mg is the downward gravitational force. Here, the maximum frictional force offered by the surface, in between these two objects, some maximum static frictional force will be created now, that can be calculated by the formula Fs max. This formula must be clearly understood. Are you clear? Fs max must be calculated. This one can be calculated by using the expression mu s into n. What is mu s? Coefficient of static friction. That coefficient of static friction that depends on the surface and the object. In between the object and surface, that friction is created now, that is indicated by the number called, what is this? Mu s. Mu s is called coefficient of static friction. That one will vary from the pair of object and the surface. Here, let us imagine in between the object and the surface, with respect to that pair of materials and object and surface, the mu s value can be taken as 0.8. Let us imagine the mu s coefficient of friction of the surface is 0.8. Here that normal is always equal to mg. Therefore, we can write one more formula called mu s into mg, because n is equal to mg. So instead of n, I have substituted mg. Are you clear? So we can write instead of m, we can substitute 2 kg. Are you clear? With respect to that object, I am calculating the maximum frictional force. 0.8 into 2 into 9.8. If all are multiplied, you will get the answer as 15.68 Newton. So this is the maximum frictional force offered by the surface. Are you clear? Let us imagine I am taking some typical value. Are you clear? With respect to this diagram, with respect to the object and the surface, this is the maximum frictional force. Are you clear? When the maximum frictional force will happen? When you apply external force acts on the body, what will happen? When you apply force continuously, if you increase the force, that frictional force also will increase. Are you clear? Frictional force will increase up to certain limit. That maximum limit of the frictional force is called, what is this? Fs max, that can be calculated by a standard formula called mu s n, mu s mg can be written instead of n, mg is substituted, and I have calculated the maximum frictional force offered by the surface. This is the important one. With the help of this one alone, we are able to find out whether the object will move or not. Are you clear? So just imagine the value, just keep the value aside. Understood? Now, let us imagine we are going to learn the case number 1. In case number 1, I am not applying any external force. External force is not applied. Are you clear? No external force. External force can be taken as 0. The object is at rest. The body is at rest. Are you clear? Since external force is 0, no force is acting on the body, there won't be any static frictional force. If force is applied, only then static frictional force it will start to act. Since external force is 0, which one is also 0? The static frictional force between the object and the surface is also 0. Therefore, there is no motion. F external is also 0. Static friction is also 0. Here there should be a force, no? Since there is no force acts on the body, static frictional force is also 0. Therefore, body is at rest, body is not moving in case number 1. Understood? Now we are going to learn the second case. Now I am going to apply the external force. So let us take it as case 2. In case 2, what I am going to do? I am going to apply the external force. External force can be written as F external. Some amount of force is going to be acted upon the body to move it. So let us imagine I am applying 10 Newton from externally to move the object. As soon as the external force is applied, there will be a frictional force. That frictional force is acting in between the object and the surface, that can be called as Fs. If the external force acts automatically, immediately what happens? The frictional force also starts to increase. For example, when it increases, if it reaches the value of 10 Newton means, very clear, look at the value. F external is also 10 Newton. The static frictional force is also equal to 10 Newton. Now we have to see whether the body will move or not. Now the body it won't move. The body it won't move. Why? Because F external is equal to static frictional force. Both are equal to how much? 10 Newton. This is also equal to 10 Newton. Why it is not moving? Now we have to test the condition. Here, already I have calculated the maximum frictional force of the surface. Are you clear? Maximum frictional force was already calculated for this mass m is equal to 2 kg. Are you clear? For this particular mass, are you clear? What is the maximum frictional force offered here? 15.68. Are you clear? But here, the frictional force, what is acting here is lesser than F max, Fs max. Are you clear? Fs max. This is a very important condition. Here some amount of frictional force is acting. Its value is 10 Newton, that is equal to F external. But 10 Newton is lesser than the maximum frictional force. Are you clear? So what is the value of maximum frictional force? Already that one was calculated, 15.68 Newton. Because of this condition, body does not move. Body does not slide or move. Are you clear? Actually it should be called a slide. Are you clear? For the sake of your convenience, I am writing a body does not move. Though force is applied, body it won't move because F external, Fs, static frictional force, both are equal. That is another important thing. And moreover that we have to learn that the frictional force which is created here is lesser than the Fs max, that value. That's why body does not move though external force is acting on it. Understood? This is case 2, very important one. Now we are going to learn the third case. It's a very interesting case. Now I am applying F external force, that is external force is applied. This one can be taken as case 3. Are you clear? If you apply external force on the object, if its value is equivalent to 15.68 Newton means what will happen? Here also automatically the frictional force also starts to increase. Here how much amount of external force is acting? 15.68 Newton is acting on the object. I am trying to move it. I am trying to push it. Here also the value, it starts to increase. Static frictional force, it starts to increase. When the frictional force starts to increase, that one will attain the maximum value, that is Fs max. Up to certain extent alone, the frictional force, it will start to increase. It won't go beyond that. For example, if the static frictional force, if it reaches the maximum value, if the value is equivalent to 15.68 Newton means, just you compare the external force and Fs max. Here both are equal. Are you clear? Now the external force what you have applied, that is equal to the maximum frictional force. That one was already calculated for the surface. So Fs, it reaches the maximum frictional force. No, when both are equal, the object, clear, it starts sliding. It starts to slide. The sliding is nothing but it just tried to move. Are you clear? It is not at all moving. It just tried to slightly jerks and starts to move. That is the meaning of sliding. Are you clear? It doesn't mean that the body, it starts to move. It just tries to move. Are you clear? Still it is in a static condition. It just tried to move. So here 15.68 is the external force and Fs max is also 15.68. Both are equal. So 15.68 Newton is equal to 15.68 Newton. Now the body, it starts to slide. It shows that the body tries to move from its position, not yet moving. That is the meaning of sliding. Are you clear? So this one happens when F external is equal to Fs max. Understood? This is a third case. Now I am going to teach you, so clear, when the body starts to move. So clear, I want to move the body. What I have to do? Now I am going to apply another external force. Its value is now 16 Newton. Are you clear? How much? 16 Newton amount of force is acting on the body. So that is the value of external force. Are you clear? As soon as 16 Newton is acting on the body, the frictional force, it starts increasing and it attains the maximum limit. That maximum limit can be called as, what is this? Fs max. Are you clear? This is standard one. Already it is calculated. Its value is how much? 15.68 Newton. The value, it won't change. Are you clear? If you going on increasing the external force, the Fs max, it won't change. Are you clear? It is a standard one. The maximum frictional force, that is a maximum limit of the frictional force. You compare the external force and Fs max, that is maximum static frictional force. Here external force is greater, Fs max is lesser. Are you clear? So when F external, the force what you have applied, it is greater than the Fs max, no, by the time the body starts to move. Are you clear? It is displaced from its position. Are you clear? It is displaced from its position. Are you clear? Very important one. Are you clear? Again I will explain. You are applying some amount of force, 16 Newton amount of force. Frictional force starts increasing. It attains the maximum limit of 15.68 as per the calculation. It won't go beyond that. Now, clear, though if it is increased, it won't increase. Now you compare both. F external is greater than Fs max. Because of that, what happens? The body, it starts to move. So this is the condition for moving the object. Are you clear? Very important one. When F external is greater than Fs max, body starts to move. You compare this value and this value. That is 16 Newton is greater than 15.68. So whenever you apply any force on any object, so clear, if it is kept on the floor, when it starts moving means immediately you have to come to a conclusion that the force what you have applied is greater than Fs max. Only then the body can be moved. Understood? Very important one. This one can be taken as case 4. Are you clear? I have explained 4 cases in static friction. Understood?